You know that meme where it shows a president before and after they got elected? And in the after picture, it looks like they literally aged 10 years. Almost as if somebody yanked them into a room and told them all of the world's secrets. Well, it's rumored that this is because of the 4-hour tape. And listen guys, you gotta stick around for this one because this is a wild story. Aaron was one of these low-level employees. He always kept quiet and he just tried to fly under the radar. It was nighttime at the office and there was something he really wanted to get done before the weekend. So he was working later than usual. He was almost ready to pack up and head home when he printed a document on what he thought was the printer in his immediate vicinity. The notification on his computer showed that the document was being printed, but he didn't hear any noise or paper coming from the printer. That's when he checked the name of the device he selected. He noticed it was being printed at another printer on a completely different floor. Now, normally a person would have just forgotten about that and reprinted the document on the right printer, but there's a really strict rule on making sure that all confidential documents are accounted for. He got up, went to the elevator, and rode to the 7th floor. As the elevator doors opened, he noticed that the entire floor was dark. He spotted the printer across the room and started making his way towards it. But before he got to the printer, he noticed a glow coming from one of the meeting rooms down the hall. Being the nice guy he is, he figured he'd go down and turn the light off and save the office a little bit of money. As he stepped into the room and reached for the light switch, he was startled to see a group of about 10 men all huddled around a snack table. And there were rows of the fanciest folding chairs he'd probably ever seen. At the front of the room sat an old TV on a cart. "Mr. Knightley, we've been waiting for you for over 15 minutes. Get the hell in here." Aaron began to stutter as he tried to tell him that you got the wrong guy, but he was immediately cut off. "I don't care why you're late, just get in here, grab a plate of snacks, and sit down. We're starting soon. Put your phone, your watch, and anything else that can record audio or video into the bag." Something about his sternness and tone short-circuited Aaron's brain. For guys like him, there's a third option beyond fight or flight. It's called just go with it until it's over. He dropped his phone and his watch into the bag, and the gentleman made his way to the front of the room, where he stood next to just a serious-looking man. There was also a Secret Service-looking guy standing in the corner. One of the men pulled out a VHS tape from his bag, and he put it in the TV and pressed play. Aaron's mind was racing as he began recalling all of the rumors that he's heard in the past. The beginning was familiar enough to him. Various disclaimers about this being incredibly confidential material. It showed insignias of relevant organizations and just all of that stuff he's seen a million times. But then, something caught his eye. The next insignia that popped up on the screen looked kind of strange to him. He couldn't exactly tell what it was, but something was definitely off. It had the same eagle that he was used to, but this time, there was a navy blue hand on the left shoulder of the eagle. Did they update the logo? Before he had time to think about it, they cut to another logo. And this one, he most definitely has never seen before. Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness. The logo was an image of the planet Earth nestled inside of a seal type design. Then, it cut to a room that looked similar to the Congress floor. But there were some strange differences. The seats were farther apart, and the whole entire room seemed to be on a really steep incline, not what he's used to on the regular Congress floor. As the camera panned around the room, it looked like there were about 50 people gathered around. The recording seemed to be really old, since it was recorded in black and white, almost like it was a video shot in like the 40s or 50s. The tape lingered on this one shot for quite a while. Then it panned over to the corner, where there was a choir huddled together, talking amongst themselves. After a few more minutes, the tape abruptly cut to an awkward angle video of the man speaking at the podium. It was too zoomed in on the lower half of his face, so you couldn't really see his eyes or his hair or anything like that. Aaron could tell whoever recorded this definitely wasn't a professional. The man at the podium began to speak. "Members of the Committee for the Protection and Preservation of Human Consciousness, I thank you all for coming tonight. We are lucky to be in the good graces of our visitors today. Without rehashing our painful history, we can all acknowledge that the journey it took to get to this very moment in time has been a very difficult and very strenuous task. I am pleased to say that humanity, faced with a dire ultimatum, has come to a majority decision. To our esteemed guests from across the solar system, we are thankful for the opportunity you have given us to negotiate with you today." Aaron's heart beat out of his chest as adrenaline began surging through his body. He couldn't believe that they had actually made contact with extraterrestrial life. The man at the podium continued speaking. Before I outline the decisions taken by humanity, I want to, from the bottom of my heart, thank the brilliant representatives from all the nations all over the world who came together to ensure that this decision was taken with the utmost responsibility, care, and appreciation for our human species. I am aware that this was not a unanimous decision. What did that mean? Aaron sunk down into his chair as he felt a nauseous feeling starting in his stomach. The tape returned to a now corrected angle of the speaker at the podium. His eyes were now visible and they looked strained, almost as if he hadn't slept for weeks. And when his eyes looked at the camera, you could see the sadness in his eyes, like he'd seen multiple versions of hell. To the nations who still disagree, he continued, I thank you nonetheless for accepting the majority decision that we have made today. May this moment, which will be held in secrecy throughout the rest of time, be appreciated as a critical milestone for human civilization. Tonight is not a victory. It is a somber moment that we share. However, we are faced with two options: extinction or accepting the agreement. We made our choice, and I believe time will show that this was the right decision. I hereby announce that we accept the agreement provided by our special guests. This intergalactic species will allow humanity on planet Earth to continue to populate, grow, and innovate. In return, all governments of the world will honor the promise. Aaron was on the edge of his seat. He needed to spit it out. What was this agreement? At this point, the video showed the man at the podium, and for the first time, he looked nervous, scared even. We honor the agreement that these beings hold the right to visit the planet Earth on a reoccurring basis. They will be allowed to consume the majority of the human population inhabiting Earth in order to get the nourishment they desperately seek. After every visit, the remaining humans will be expected to breed in time for the next visit. We acknowledge that we will maintain a parallel history which will be shared with our world's population to ensure that humanity stays motivated to continue existing and evolving as a species. This parallel history may suggest that mass extinction events are a result of free will and sin among men, and they must never know that this is in fact our inevitable and unavoidable doom, put upon us by external forces. For the first time, Aaron's fight or flight response was actually flight. He wanted to escape so badly, to just run away and never look back, but he didn't know what he'd even be running from. The last visit was in the year 1346, and it lasted 7 years. We will continue to honor our parallel history about this event. The next visit, which will not be met with resistance, will be in the year 2028, and it will run for one full calendar year, marking a 675-year gap between the last significant visit and the next one. The visiting cadence is expected to speed up over time as the remaining humans continue to improve their technology and reproduce in a speedy and more productive manner. Aaron's eyes began to water. He so badly wanted to look away, but he couldn't. The tape then cut away to a larger view of the room. The committee members looked somber and broken, still contemplating whether they made the right choice or not. And the members of the choir all stood frozen in the corner. Their faces looked white and their expressions showed pure horror. The camera then panned over to a row of empty seats. Aaron was confused. What were they recording? Then he noticed the seats themselves looked kind of blurry. The man at the podium carried on with his speech as the cameras kept its focus on the blurry seats. We should acknowledge the privilege of knowing that there is indeed life in the cosmos, that extraterrestrial life has chosen to visit our planet, and that the cycle and balance provided by nature extends far beyond the confines of planet Earth. Much like humanity has found its place on Earth in the food chain, we acknowledge our place in the divine order of things, and we should be honored to have an encounter with beings of such great power, understanding, cognitive function, and evolutionary progression. Aaron's thoughts began to race. I shouldn't have stayed late. I should have made my identity clear from the beginning. I knew that I wasn't supposed to see this. I just knew it. The speaker then began to stutter. It almost appeared as if he was going to cry. While the process of consumption it's a painful and lengthy one, we respect the trade-off that comes with our preservation of our species. Our species should be honored and proud to be the only species in all of the cosmos that possess the great power that our visiting species seeks. We are blessed to play a part in the continuation of life. In God we trust, amen. The tape showed footage of the choir singing the national anthem. As they sang, the camera continued to pan over the blurry seats. Men at the front began fast-forwarding through the tape. It looked as if they were skipping through performances of other national anthems. The fast-forwarding continued for quite a while. Every so often, it looked like a new choir group entered the room to sing their national anthem. On and on the tape went. Aaron fixed his gaze on the ground as he focused on not throwing up. One of the men at the front of the room began speaking. Listen, guys, we are legally obligated to get through the end of this tape, but you don't need to look at the rest of it. So please feel free to look down or close your eyes, because I'm not gonna lie, this part is really hard to watch. Aaron looked around the room and he noticed the other men were taking the advice, but for some weird reason, he just couldn't bring himself to look away. He had to see what was going on. The fast-forwarding continued as yet another choir group sang their anthem. It looked like they were finally getting near the end. The fast-forwarding now showed a conversation between the man at the podium and another man who was whispering in his ear. When all of a sudden, the man at the podium looked up. His eyes were full of tears as he gave a subtle nod, as if to signal something. The last few fast-forwarded moments of the tape remained burned in Aaron's memory to this very moment. It was complete pandemonium. The attendees were sitting in their chairs, frozen, shivering, crying. The people in the choir were running around the rooms in fast motion as blurry spots started covering them and ungodly things started happening to them. Why didn't I look away? Why didn't I listen? It felt like the whole thing went on for longer than it should have. Finally, the men at the front of the room stopped the fast forwarding. They pressed play on the tape to cover the very final moment. In the tape, the man at the podium, clearly emotional, spoke his final line. The agreement has officially been ratified. Thank you all for attending. The final shot of the video is the full room. The committee members are in their seats, shivering and crying, rocking back and forth. The dismantled choir members were thrown all over the room. The blurry seats were stained a dark red. The video then cut away, back to the same insignia on the black backdrop. The lights were then flicked on. The rest of the night was a complete blur. The men at the front of the room tried consoling the men and tried to give them tips on how to deal with this going forward. They instructed the men that it was best for them to sit for at least an hour to digest the information that they had just been presented. No discussion about the video was allowed to take place. When they were ready to stand, they were allowed to get up and leave and go home. But you are absolutely not allowed to discuss this with friends, family, or anybody. It had to remain with you and you alone. As soon as he left the building, he got in his car and he began driving. Where was he going? Even he didn't know. He just drove for as long as he could. He would stop for gas and then he'd keep driving until he couldn't drive anymore and he decided to pull over and get himself a hotel room. He knew he wasn't supposed to tell anybody, but he just had to get it off his chest. It was driving him insane. So against his better judgment, he got online and he shared this experience with everybody. He just laid it all out there and told everybody exactly what happened. He finished his letter by saying this: "All I could think about is the length of that stupid tape. While I can't confirm, I feel like if it were played straight through without fast forwarding, it would have only been like 3 hours. I wonder if the 4-hour tape rumor comes from the fact that we all needed that extra hour to digest the information and let it settle before we left. Of course, it got taken down right away, but it was up long enough for some people to get it and screenshot it and share it with the rest of us." Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And don't forget to follow my page. I'm trying to grow my following, so I really appreciate every follow. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to share it with your friends and stay tuned. I have a lot more cool stories like this on the way. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.